The alien princess held my hand and whispered, "Will you remain with me?" The planet below was unlike any human had ever seen. Its forests shimmered in shades of blue and green, rivers glowed faintly under the light of two suns, and the mountains sparkled as if embedded with crystals. Everything seemed alive, almost as if the world itself were watching. Eli felt a strange mix of excitement and unease. He had been trained for every possible scenario, from hostile encounters to diplomatic meetings, yet something about this planet made his chest tighten. He knew humans were explorers by nature, but Lithuria was different. The air itself carried an energy he could feel vibrating through his bones. The landing pad was a wide platform carved into a hill, surrounded by tall trees with leaves that glowed faintly at night. As the ship touched the surface, a soft hum vibrated through the metal floor. Eli unbuckled his seatbelt and stepped out, his boots crunching on the iridescent gravel. "Welcome to Lithuria, Captain Merrick," said a soft voice behind him. He turned to see a small group of aliens approaching. They moved with grace, their limbs long and delicate, their skin shimmering with a faint golden light. They had large, expressive eyes, and though their appearance was different, there was something unmistakably intelligent in the way they carried themselves. One of them stepped forward, a woman with silver hair that flowed like water and eyes that reflected the stars. "I am Kelara, Crown Princess of Lithuria," she said. Her voice was calm, yet carried a gentle authority that immediately made Eli pay attention. "We have awaited your arrival for some time. Please follow me to the palace." Eli nodded, feeling both honored and nervous. Humans were rarely invited to such a high level of alien diplomacy. He followed Kelara through the forest, the trees lighting up as they passed, as if responding to her presence. Strange creatures peeked from the shadows, watching silently but not moving closer. "This planet, it's alive," Eli said quietly, half to himself. Kelara glanced at him and smiled faintly. "Lithuria responds to those who respect it. It will test your heart, Captain, but it will also protect you if you are true." Eli felt a shiver run down his spine. There was a softness in her words, but also a weight that suggested the forest was more than it seemed. He had faced hostile planets before, but never one that seemed to judge him silently as he walked. The palace came into view, a towering structure of crystal and silver. Its walls reflected the suns, scattering light in every direction, creating a rainbow of colors across the landscape. The gates opened automatically, and Kelara gestured for Eli to enter. Inside, the palace was breathtaking. The halls were wide and open, filled with a soft, golden light. Patterns moved along the walls, shimmering in ways that made Eli dizzy at first. He had seen advanced alien architecture before, but this was beyond anything imaginable. Every surface seemed alive, as if it could respond to the emotions of those who passed through. "We will hold a welcoming ceremony tonight," Kelara explained, her voice echoing softly in the grand hall. "It is our way of introducing honored guests to Lithuria. You will meet the council and perhaps other visitors from distant worlds." Eli nodded, trying to take it all in. "I am honored," he said. "Lithuria, it's more incredible than I imagined." Kelara smiled again, her gaze lingering on him in a way that made his stomach tighten. "I have been waiting to meet a human," she said softly. "Your kind is rare here. Few have the courage to leave their world and venture so far into the unknown." Eli felt a flicker of pride. Humans were known in the galaxy as resilient and bold, often underestimated by other species. Yet he had never thought of himself as exceptional. He was simply doing his duty. The ceremony began as the suns dipped behind the horizon. Lithuria's sky turned a deep violet, dotted with stars that seemed unusually bright. Aliens from various regions gathered in the palace, their forms elegant and strange. Some had multiple limbs, some had translucent skin revealing glowing veins, and others radiated faint light from their eyes. Yet all moved with grace and precision. When Eli entered the hall, a hush fell over the crowd. Whispers spread quickly. A human had arrived. Kelara took his hand and led him forward, her touch warm and steady. Eli was aware of every eye on him, every curious glance. He felt like a small fish in a sea of alien grandeur, yet he held his head high. "You may be different," Kelara whispered in his ear, "but there is a strength in your kind that even we admire." Eli felt a rush of warmth. He had faced hostile worlds, treacherous negotiations, and countless unknowns in space. But nothing had prepared him for this quiet, personal moment amid the grandeur of Lithuria's palace. The council members greeted him politely, their voices melodic and precise. They asked questions about Earth, human technology, and his journey across the stars. Eli answered each question carefully, aware that every word could be analyzed for meaning. He realized that Lithurians valued honesty and courage more than cunning or diplomacy, a surprising contrast to their elegant and calculated appearance. Kilara stayed close, guiding him through the discussions and translating subtle gestures and expressions. Eli noticed how the other aliens seemed to watch her as well, their respect for her clear. She was more than a princess. She was a bridge between worlds, someone who could connect the unpredictable humans with the calculated Lithurians. After the formalities, the ceremony opened into a celebration. Music unlike anything Eli had heard filled the hall, with harmonies that seemed to resonate with the air itself. Light danced across the walls in rhythm with the music, creating patterns that shifted and moved like living creatures. Aliens moved in elegant dances, and Eli was invited to join. He stumbled at first, unsure of the rhythms, but Kilara laughed softly and guided him. His awkward steps drew smiles from the crowd, and he realized that the aliens appreciated effort and courage, not just perfection. At one point, Kilara led him to a balcony overlooking the alien gardens. The two suns had fully set, and the twin moons rose, casting a silver glow over the sparkling flora. Strange flowers opened in the moonlight, releasing gentle luminescent pollen that floated like tiny stars. Eli could see the entire palace grounds shimmering beneath him. "This world, it's alive, isn't it?" Eli said, awe in his voice. Kilara nodded, her eyes reflecting the moons. "Lithuria responds to intention, Captain. It can feel kindness, bravery, and fear. It protects, but it also tests. You have been watched long before you arrived." Eli turned to her, startled. "Watched? By whom?" "By those who care for this planet," she replied, her hand brushing his. The touch was brief, but it sent a current through him. "And perhaps by me as well. I wanted to see what a human would bring to Lithuria, what they might offer that we cannot. Curiosity, bravery, the spark of unpredictability." Eli's heart pounded. He had faced alien species before, but Kilara's words felt personal, almost like a recognition of something within him that he himself hadn't fully understood. I don't know what I can offer," he said honestly. "I'm just human." Kilara smiled, a soft, knowing smile. "Being human is rare enough. You bring something that even the most advanced Lithurians cannot create. Courage in the face of uncertainty, compassion without expectation, a willingness to risk for others." The two stood in silence, the air between them filled with unspoken understanding. Eli realized that he was not just a guest on this planet. He was part of something larger, a connection between worlds that went beyond diplomacy or politics. Kilara's hand lingered in his, and she leaned close, her voice a whisper. "Will you remain with me, Captain Merrick?" The question hung in the air, heavy and gentle at once. Eli's mind raced, thinking of his duties, his mission, and the unknown future. Yet something inside him stirred, a deep, unexplainable pull toward this world, toward her. I don't know," he admitted, "but I want to try." Kilara's eyes lit up with a warmth that seemed to make the air around them glow. "That is enough for now," she said softly. "For everything else, we will have time." As the night deepened, Eli looked out over Lithuria, feeling the pulse of the planet beneath him. He realized that humans, for all their flaws, had a way of adapting, connecting, and surprising even the most advanced species. And perhaps, just perhaps, that was exactly why he had been brought here. For the first time since leaving Earth, Eli felt not fear but wonder, a sense that his journey had only just begun, and that whatever came next, he would face it not alone, but alongside someone who truly understood the strength of being human. The morning sun of Lithuria rose, slowly casting soft golden light over the palace gardens. Captain Eli Merrick awoke in the guest chambers assigned to him. The room was elegant but minimal, with walls of translucent crystal that shifted colors as the light moved. For a moment, Eli simply stood and watched the changing hues, feeling the strange calm of a planet alive and observant. He had slept well, but his mind was still alive with thoughts from the previous night. The princess's hand in his, her whispered question, and the feeling of trust had left an impression he could not ignore. Humans were often described as impulsive and unpredictable by alien species, Yet it seemed those same qualities made Lithurians both curious and cautious around him. Eli felt an unexpected pride. Being human was rare here, and that rarity carried a weight of responsibility. The palace corridors were silent as he stepped out. Kilara had promised to guide him through the customs and ways of Lithuria. The hallways were wide, glowing softly with patterns that shifted like liquid. Eli had noticed that even simple gestures of politeness caused the walls to respond, and he marveled at how integrated life and environment were on this planet. Kilara awaited him in a small garden, where plants glimmered faintly under the twin suns' morning rays. Her silver hair caught the light, making her appear ethereal. She smiled warmly when she saw him. "Good morning, Captain Merrick," she said. "Lithuria greets you anew today." Eli smiled back. "Good morning, Princess. I think I'm starting to understand why this planet is called alive. It feels different from any other place I've visited." She nodded. "It responds to those who respect it. That is why it is not enough to simply arrive. You must listen, observe, and understand." As they walked, Eli noticed subtle differences in behavior among the palace staff. The Lithurians moved in a rhythm that seemed precise, almost like a dance. Even their greetings carried multiple layers of meaning, gestures that conveyed respect, curiosity, and sometimes subtle warnings. Eli tried to mimic them, and Kilara's soft laugh at his imperfect attempts reminded him of how human he was. "You have courage, Eli," she said quietly, "but understanding our ways will take time. Many humans fail not because of lack of strength, but because they do not see the layers beneath our customs." Eli nodded thoughtfully. "Then I'll try. I want to understand, not just survive." Kilara led him to the council chambers, a circular room with walls that reflected the surroundings in fluid, shifting images. Members of the council sat around a crystal table, each radiating calm authority. When Eli entered, they all turned to him, eyes wide with interest. It was clear that humans were rare enough that even trained diplomats did not always know how to respond. "Captain Merrick," Kilara began, "these are the Council of Lithuria. They have served our world for centuries, guiding our people with wisdom. Today they will speak with you, not just to know your mission, but to understand what humans can offer our world." Eli took a deep breath. He was aware of the weight of history and tradition in the room, yet he knew that humans were often valued for qualities aliens could not reproduce: adaptability, instinct, courage, and empathy. The council members spoke carefully, their voices melodic and precise. They asked about Earth, human technology, and humanity's approach to exploration. Eli answered honestly, sometimes elaborating on details they could hardly comprehend. He noticed subtle shifts in their expressions, small signs of surprise, admiration, or doubt. Kilara translated the more abstract questions, helping him navigate the nuances of alien thought. One council member leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. "Humans act on impulse," she said. "You face danger without calculation. How can we trust such a species with matters that require centuries of planning?" Eli held her gaze. "Humans survive by adapting," he said firmly. "We make mistakes, yes, but we learn quickly. Sometimes, seeing a solution from outside the normal pattern is what saves lives." The room grew silent. Even among these advanced beings, Eli's words carried weight. Kilara placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "You see, Eli," she said softly, "your humanity is what makes you valuable, not perfection, not control. It is your ability to feel, to risk, and to act that intrigues them." Later, Kilara guided Eli through the palace grounds, showing him the living architecture that made Lithuria unique. The walls of the palace were not only beautiful, they adjusted to maintain balance, channel energy, and even support the emotions of those inside. Humans had technology, but it was Eli's understanding of intuition, observation, and instinct that allowed him to navigate these spaces more easily than most aliens could. "You are learning quickly," Kilara observed. "Most aliens would be overwhelmed or cautious. Humans, you simply act." Eli smiled wryly. "I act because I must, but I'm starting to see that sometimes observation is just as important as action." Their walk led them to a massive courtyard where training simulations were held. Kilara paused and gestured toward a series of holographic projections, scenes of combat, diplomacy, and survival across multiple planets. "This is how we prepare for challenges," she explained. "Lithurians are trained for centuries to anticipate and plan, but humans, You bring unpredictability. That can be a strength or a weakness. Eli studied the projections, realizing the subtle patterns the aliens expected him to see. But he also noticed gaps, moments where instinct or quick thinking could change the outcome. He began to imagine ways a human could act differently, introducing a spark of creativity that was absent in the simulations. You see, Kelara said, your kind may be young, but your perspective is not limited by centuries of tradition. That is why your presence here is so important. You remind us that even the most advanced species can learn from the unpredicted, the unexpected. Eli nodded. Then I hope I can be of use. I may not know everything, but I can think quickly and I will do my best. Kelara smiled, her eyes reflecting pride in something deeper, something Eli could not yet name. That is enough for now. But remember, understanding Lithuria is more than learning our ways. It is about respecting them and knowing when to trust yourself. Over the next few days, Eli immersed himself in the palace life. He learned the subtle meanings behind gestures, the rhythms of speech, and the expectations of the council. At times, he faltered. He misinterpreted a greeting or hesitated in a ceremony, and he felt the eyes of the Lithurians on him. Yet each time, Kelara guided him gently, correcting without shame and celebrating his small victories. He noticed that humans' emotional transparency sometimes startled the aliens. Where Lithurians expressed feelings subtly, Eli's reactions were honest and immediate. When he laughed at a small joke, gasped at a display of light, or showed concern for someone's well-being, it drew attention. Kelara noticed, too, and often whispered explanations. "You cannot hide what you feel," she said one evening as they watched the twin moons rise. But that is not weakness, it is strength. Humans' hearts are visible, and that visibility inspires trust. Eli felt warmth at her words. Being human, he realized, was not a flaw to conceal but a gift to embrace. Even among beings who could sense thought and emotion, honesty and courage were rare. However, not all the Lithurians were welcoming. A few council members whispered behind closed doors, questioning his presence. They saw humans as impulsive, too unpredictable to be trusted with the planet's secrets or future. Eli was aware of their glances, their subtle tests. He felt the weight of their judgment, but he also felt a rising determination. Humans had survived in harsh environments, faced overwhelming odds, and triumphed against impossible challenges. If the Lithurians wanted to test him, he would show them what humanity could offer. One afternoon, Kelara took Eli to the planet's archives, a vast library of floating data spheres. Here, the history of Lithuria was preserved, from the rise of civilizations to the decisions of past rulers. As they floated among the luminous spheres, Eli asked questions, learning about politics, culture, and technology. He realized that the Lithurians valued intelligence, caution, and foresight, but they often underestimated intuition, creativity, and courage. "You see, Eli," Kelara said softly, "there are things humans can teach us, not in technology or tradition, but in the heart. Courage, loyalty, and the ability to act when reasoning fails. That is why you are here, not by accident, but by purpose." Eli felt a growing respect for the princess. She was not just a leader. She was a bridge between two worlds, someone who saw potential where others saw risk. Her faith in him inspired confidence, and he realized that trust was not something to demand. It was something to earn, and he would do so with every action. As the days passed, the cultural divide became clearer. Lithurians were cautious, precise, and bound by tradition. Humans were bold, intuitive, and sometimes reckless. Yet Eli could see how the two approaches could complement each other. The question was whether the Lithurians could embrace that unpredictability, and whether he could teach them that being human was not a liability, but a gift. That evening, as the sun set and the palace glowed in warm light, Kelara approached him once more. She held his hand gently, the same way she had on the night of his arrival. "You are learning quickly," she said. "Not just our customs, but our hearts. That is rare, even among my people. I am glad you are here, Eli." Eli looked into her eyes, feeling the bond between them deepen. "I am glad, too. I may be human, but I want to belong here. I want to be useful to you, to your people, and to Lithuria." Kelara smiled faintly, her gaze steady and reassuring. "Then continue, Eli. There is much to see, much to learn, and many hearts to touch. Your journey has only begun." As the night deepened, Eli gazed out over Lithuria, feeling the rhythm of the planet beneath him. He understood now that this was more than a mission. It was a chance to prove that humanity, in all its unpredictability and courage, could bridge worlds, inspire trust, and forge new paths where others saw only barriers. And with Kilara by his side, he knew he would not face the challenges alone. The morning on Lithuria began like any other. Twin suns bathed the palace in soft light, and the air was filled with the hum of life, a symphony of plants, creatures, and the planet itself. Captain Eli Merrick walked through the palace corridors with a growing sense of familiarity. He was learning the ways of Lithuria, understanding its subtle rhythms, and finding his place among beings far older and wiser than he could imagine. Yet beneath the beauty of the palace and the calm of daily routines, a shadow moved silently. Some members of the council watched the human with suspicion. To them, Eli's unpredictability was a potential threat. And outside the palace, in the depths of Lithuria's untamed lands, another danger waited, an enemy that had noticed the arrival of the human visitor and the princess who trusted him. Eli met Kilara in the garden where glowing flowers released gentle streams of luminescent pollen. She smiled at him warmly. "Today, we will practice strategies and exercises," she said. "Even in peace, we must prepare for threats. Your instincts may prove useful." Eli nodded. He had trained for combat situations on Earth, but Lithuria's challenges were unlike anything he had faced before. Its terrain, creatures, and even the atmosphere could be obstacles, and now he sensed there was more at stake than simple training. The exercise began in a wide courtyard with holographic projections simulating enemy forces. Kilara guided him, explaining Lithuria's traditional methods of defense, precision, telepathic coordination, and careful planning. Eli observed, then began improvising. Where the simulations assumed perfect order, he introduced unexpected movements, unpredictable attacks, and bold tactics. The aliens around him watched in silence, their expressions a mixture of curiosity and disbelief. Eli's human creativity challenged their centuries of tradition. "Your kind acts without predictability," one officer whispered to another. "But it works," Kilara's eyes sparkled. "Exactly, that is why he is here," she said softly. "To remind us that not all threats can be handled with centuries of planning. Sometimes courage and quick thinking matter more." After the exercise, Kilara and Eli were walking back to the palace when a low rumble shook the ground. Eli instinctively crouched, scanning the sky. Above the distant mountains, shadows moved, ships unlike any Lithurian craft. Their design was angular, dark, and menacing, reflecting the sun's light in sharp glints. "Enemy ships," Kilara said, her voice calm but firm. "They come from the outer sector, mercenaries who wish to capture me and take Lithurian technology. They believe the human is a weakness we cannot overcome." Eli's heart raced. He had faced hostile forces before, but this was different. These aliens were technologically advanced, precise, and ruthless, yet Kilara's calm gave him focus. "What's the plan?" he asked. "We defend," she replied. "But we also need to use strategy. Follow my lead, trust your instincts, and do not underestimate the environment." The palace mobilized quickly. Shields rose, energy barriers flickering to life. Lithurian warriors took positions, their movements precise, almost choreographed. Eli watched, learning patterns even as he prepared to act. When the enemy ships began their descent, Eli noticed something others had overlooked: the terrain. The palace grounds were surrounded by bioluminescent forests and rivers of light. Using these natural features, Eli suggested unconventional strategies, distracting the attackers with reflections from the crystal walls, using the glowing rivers as natural traps, and positioning small teams in unexpected locations. Kilara raised an eyebrow but followed his guidance. "Your instincts are unorthodox, but I trust them," she said. The battle began. Enemy ships fired energy pulses that lit the sky. Lithurian warriors moved with perfect coordination, but the humans' improvisations created openings. Eli leaped between positions, using his agility to block attacks, redirecting enemy fire with mirrors and inspiring smaller squads to act boldly. Kilara moved alongside him, telepathically coordinating defenses, her calm presence anchoring him. Together, they formed an unlikely but effective partnership, human unpredictability and Lithurian precision. The battle raged for hours, though it felt like minutes. Eli realized that the human trait most valuable here was adaptability. Where Lithurians hesitated when faced with the unexpected, he acted instinctively, adjusting his tactics in real time. At one critical moment, a group of enemy mercenaries breached the palace's outer barrier. Eli spotted a path through a bioluminescent grove that led directly to them. He charged, using the glowing trees to obscure their line of sight. Kilara followed, telepathically amplifying his movements to coordinate the defenders. Together, they outmaneuvered the intruders, neutralizing the threat without unnecessary destruction. When the last enemy ship was driven back, Eli stood breathing heavily, looking at the wreckage in the distance. The Lithurians had been impressed, some openly acknowledging the humans' contributions. Kilara approached him, her silver hair slightly disheveled but her eyes shining with pride. "You were remarkable," she said. "I knew humans had courage, but seeing it in action, it is inspiring." Eli shook his head. "I didn't do it alone. You guided me and the warriors they followed. I just added a few surprises." Kilara smiled. "That is precisely why your presence matters. You remind us that even the most advanced civilization can benefit from boldness, instinct, and heart. You have proven that humans are more than you or anyone else imagined." In the days following the attack, the palace recovered quickly. Eli found himself respected not only by Kilara, but also by the council members who had doubted him. Some approached him cautiously, asking questions about Earth, human methods, and strategy. Eli explained, without boasting, the value of adaptability, intuition, and teamwork. Slowly, the cultural divide began to shrink. Yet Eli also sensed the lingering suspicion. The attack had revealed weaknesses, and some Lithurians wondered whether trusting a human could endanger the planet. Eli understood their concern. It was not hostility, only caution. Humans had to earn trust through action, and he was prepared to do so. One evening, Kilara invited him to walk along the palace terraces. The twin moons rose over the horizon, casting silver light across the gardens. Eli could see the damage from the attack, scorched areas where mercenaries had landed, but the planet itself seemed unharmed, resilient as ever. "You handled yourself well today," Kilara said, her hand brushing his lightly. "You not only fought bravely, but you inspired our people. Humans have a spark we often lack, a willingness to act when hesitation could be fatal." Eli felt a warmth at her words. "I just reacted," he said. "It's what humans do. We survive, we adapt. We protect those we care about." Kilara's gaze softened. "That is why I asked you to remain with me. Not because you are perfect, but because you bring something Lithuria needs, something I have longed to see. Courage, heart, and the ability to make choices when all else fails." They walked in silence for a moment, watching the glowing rivers and shimmering forests below. Eli felt a strange connection to the planet. Lithuria had challenged him, tested him, and now embraced him. The bond with Kilara grew stronger, not just as a leader and a visitor, but as two beings who recognized each other's strengths. Suddenly, a warning light flashed across the terrace. Eli reacted instinctively, scanning the horizon. Another group of ships appeared, smaller but faster than before, moving with precision. Kilara tensed beside him. "They have returned," she said calmly. "This time their plan is different. They do not seek open battle, they seek to capture me quickly." Eli's mind raced. "Then we must act faster. Use the terrain, use the environment, and stay unpredictable." Kilara nodded. "Exactly, and trust yourself. Humans often act on instinct. That instinct can save us." The following hours were a test of strategy and courage. Eli and Kilara moved through hidden paths, setting traps and using natural defenses to slow the attackers. Lithurian warriors followed their lead, blending centuries of training with human spontaneity. Every move tested the boundaries of tradition, but the results were undeniable. Human intuition, paired with alien skill, could achieve what neither could alone. By the end of the night, the attackers had retreated, forced to acknowledge that Lithuria's defenders were formidable. Eli stood beside Kilara, both exhausted and exhilarated. They had survived not only because of strength or technology, but because of trust, creativity, and the courage to act when the unexpected arrived. Kilara placed a hand on his shoulder. "You have proven something vital," she said softly. "Humans are not merely guests here. You are partners, allies, and a reminder of what courage can accomplish." Eli nodded, feeling pride swell in his chest. He had faced threats that even the Lithurians found challenging, and through instinct, bravery, and collaboration, he had made a difference. He realized more clearly than ever that humans, though young and unpredictable, could hold their own among the stars. As they gazed at the twin moons rising over Lithuria, Eli understood something profound. The cultural divide was not a wall to climb, but a bridge to build. Humans and Lithurians could learn from one another, combining caution with courage, tradition with creativity, and logic with heart. And with Kilara by his side, he knew that no challenge, no matter how dangerous, was insurmountable. The morning after the second attack, Lithuria was quiet but tense. Captain Eli Merrick stood on a balcony overlooking the shimmering forests below. The twin suns were rising slowly, casting warm light over the palace. The battle had ended, but the threat was not gone. Eli knew that whoever had sent the mercenaries would return, perhaps stronger and more prepared. Kilara joined him, her silver hair flowing in the gentle breeze. "You look thoughtful," she said softly, her voice calm yet full of concern. "I'm thinking," Eli admitted, "about the attacks and what comes next. They want to capture you, not just fight us." "That means we need a plan that they cannot predict," Kilara nodded. "Yes, but it also means we must trust each other completely, not just in battle, but in every decision we make. That trust, it will save lives." Eli glanced at her, feeling a warmth he could not explain. "I trust you, Kilara. You've guided me, taught me, and I've learned more than I imagined. I'm ready to face whatever comes." She smiled faintly, her eyes reflecting pride and relief. "Good, then we begin." Kilara led him through the palace, to a chamber deep within the archives. The room was circular, filled with floating crystal spheres that displayed information about Lithuria's history, terrain, and security measures. Eli had been here before, but today was different. Kilara was showing him how to use the knowledge to anticipate threats. "The attackers will not return randomly," she explained. "They observe patterns, weaknesses. We must change ours constantly. The unpredictable human mind is an asset here." Eli studied the spheres carefully. He saw patterns that Lithurians had accepted for centuries: timed patrols, defensive positions, and predictable supply routes. Humans often noticed what others overlooked, and Eli's eyes caught subtle gaps, places where adaptability could turn the tide. "We'll use the terrain," Eli suggested. "Rivers, forests, cliffs, every natural feature can slow them or give us advantage, and we can move quickly where they expect us to be slow." Kilara's eyes sparkled. "Exactly, and your instincts will guide us in real time. Lithurians rely too much on planning. Your ability to react will save us." They spent hours preparing, reviewing strategies, and improvising alternatives. Eli found himself learning not just the Lithurian ways, but the deeper philosophy behind them: balance, patience, and awareness of the environment. And Kilara, in turn, began to appreciate the human approach: boldness, rapid decision-making, and creative thinking that challenged centuries of tradition. That night, a warning alert echoed through the palace. Sensors had detected unknown ships approaching from the outer sectors. Eli's heart raced, but he moved instinctively, joining Kilara and the Lithurian defense forces. The ships were fast, smaller than before, but equipped with advanced weapons designed to disable the palace's defenses quickly. The attackers had learned from their previous attempts. Eli realized that they were now targeting speed and surprise rather than brute force. Kilara turned to him. "We must be faster, smarter, trust your instincts." Eli nodded. "I will." The battle began under the twin moons, their light reflecting off the energy shields of Lithuria. Eli moved with agility, guiding small groups of warriors through hidden paths and natural cover. He used reflective crystals to redirect energy blasts, and the glowing rivers and forests became traps and barriers for the enemy. Every move was unpredictable, keeping the attackers off balance. Kilara fought alongside him, telepathically coordinating defenses and amplifying his instincts. Their teamwork was seamless, a combination of human unpredictability and Lithurian precision. Together, they turned what could have been a disaster into a strategic victory. At one point, a squad of attackers broke through the outer defenses, moving swiftly toward the palace. Eli spotted a narrow pass through a glowing forest that led directly to the intruders. Without hesitation, he charged, using the environment to his advantage. Kilara followed, guiding the defenders with quiet telepathic commands. Eli's instincts were sharp. He moved in ways the attackers did not anticipate, redirecting energy blasts and creating openings for Lithurian warriors to strike. Kilara observed closely, impressed by his quick thinking and courage. The attackers were forced to retreat, unable to overcome the combined force of human adaptability and Lithurian skill. When the battle ended, Eli stood beside Kelara, both breathing heavily. The palace was intact, the attackers gone, but the memory of the danger lingered. "You were remarkable," Kelara said softly, placing a hand on his shoulder. "I knew humans had courage, but seeing it in action, it inspires more than just respect. It inspires trust." Eli shook his head. "I didn't do it alone. You guided me, and the warriors followed." "I only acted," Kelara smiled. "Your actions reminded us that sometimes instinct is stronger than planning, and courage can turn the tide when all seems lost. That is why I asked you to remain with me. Your humanity, it is a strength we need." Over the next few days, Eli continued training and exploring Lithuria. He learned the secret paths of the forests, the ways rivers could hide movements, and how the glowing flora could be used in defense. Kelara accompanied him, observing his methods and helping refine them with Lithurian knowledge. Their partnership grew stronger, built on trust, respect, and shared purpose. One afternoon, as they walked through the bioluminescent gardens, Kelara spoke softly. "Eli, do you understand why I asked you to stay with me?" He paused, looking at her. "Because you trust me," she nodded. "Partly, but also because humans have something we do not always see in ourselves: courage, adaptability, a willingness to act when hesitation could be fatal. You remind us that even the most advanced civilizations need the spark of unpredictability." Eli felt warmth at her words. "Then I will continue to be that spark, not just for you, but for Lithuria," Kelara smiled. "Good. And you will find that this world will test you in ways you cannot yet imagine. But if you remain true to yourself, your instincts, and your heart, you will succeed." Their bond deepened with each passing day. Eli began to understand the rhythms of Lithuria, not just its terrain or defenses, but its people, their hopes, fears, and the subtle ways they communicated. Kelara, in turn, trusted him more than any human or alien she had known. Together, they formed a partnership that bridged the cultural divide, showing that courage and heart could complement wisdom and tradition. Then, one evening, a new alert sounded. Eli and Kelara rushed to the palace observation deck, watching as a fleet of unfamiliar ships approached from the distant horizon. This time, the attackers were neither careless nor easily distracted. They moved with calculated precision, their intent clear. They sought Kelara and the secrets she protected. Eli felt a rush of determination. "We'll face them together," he said firmly. Kelara nodded, her eyes reflecting the approaching danger. "Yes. And this time we will show that trust, courage, and human ingenuity can turn even the most dangerous situation in our favor." The night was filled with tension, the palace bracing for the challenge ahead. Eli and Kelara moved through secret passages, preparing defenses and rallying the warriors. Every plan was tested, every instinct needed. The human mind and the Lithurian precision had never been so intertwined, and the future of Lithuria depended on their unity. As the first enemy ships reached the palace perimeter, Eli took a deep breath, feeling the pulse of the planet beneath him. Lithuria had taught him much, but now it was his turn to teach them, to show that courage, adaptability, and the human spirit could be as powerful as any ancient tradition. Kelara placed her hand on his arm. "Eli, we face this together. Trust yourself." He nodded. "I do. Let's protect Lithuria." And with that, the battle began, not just as a test of strength, but as a test of trust, courage, and the unbreakable bond between human and Lithurian. The morning on Lithuria broke quietly, the twin suns rising slowly over the shimmering forests. Captain Eli Merrick stood on the balcony of the palace, gazing at the distant mountains and rivers that glowed faintly in the soft light. For days, he and Princess Kelara had faced dangers together: mercenaries, hostile fleets, and the uncertainties of a planet both beautiful and alive. Now the world seemed peaceful once more, but Eli knew that peace required vigilance, courage, and the willingness to act. Kelara joined him, her silver hair catching the sunlight. She smiled softly, and Eli felt the warmth of her trust. "The attacks are over," she said, "but the lessons remain. You have changed more than just the outcome of battles, Eli. You have changed the hearts of those around you." Eli looked at her, unsure how to respond. "I did what anyone would do to protect those I care about," he said humbly. "I just reacted." Kelara's gaze was steady. "You did more than react. You inspired, led, and reminded my people, and me, that courage and heart matter as much as skill and wisdom. That is something only humans can bring. He felt a surge of pride, but also responsibility. Humans were often underestimated by advanced civilizations, yet here he was, recognized not just for strength, but for qualities aliens could not easily understand: instinct, empathy, and a willingness to risk everything for others. The palace council gathered in the main chamber that morning. Eli entered alongside Kelara, aware that their presence carried significance. The council members who had once doubted him now regarded him with respect. They asked questions not only about Earth and human technology, but about his approach to leadership, strategy, and problem-solving. Eli answered carefully, explaining that humans often rely on adaptability, intuition, and teamwork. He described how trust, communication, and courage can overcome even the most calculated threats. The council listened attentively, some nodding slowly, as if realizing that the human perspective added something Lithuria had not considered. One elder spoke finally, her voice melodic and calm. "Captain Merrick, your presence has shown us that bravery and the willingness to act are as valuable as centuries of planning. Humans may be young, but your hearts hold strength beyond what we imagined." Eli felt a warmth spread through him. "Thank you," he said simply. "I came here to learn and help, and I am grateful that I could contribute." After the council meeting, Kelara led him to the palace gardens. The bioluminescent plants glowed softly in the morning sun, creating a serene and magical atmosphere. For a moment, Eli simply watched, appreciating the beauty of Lithuria, the planet that had tested him, challenged him, and ultimately welcomed him. "You have done more than survive here, Eli," Kelara said quietly. "You have become part of Lithuria, not just a guest, but someone my people respect and trust." Eli turned to her. "I don't know if I'm ready to be considered part of another world," he admitted. "Humans are used to Earth, its rules, and its challenges. Here, it's so different." Kelara smiled, placing her hand gently over his. "That is precisely why your presence matters. You remind us that courage and heart are universal. You show us that even the most advanced civilizations benefit from the unexpected. You are human, and that is enough to make a difference." Eli felt a surge of determination. He realized that being human, imperfect, unpredictable, and courageous was not a limitation but a gift. It was what had allowed him to survive the attacks, to inspire trust among Lithurians, and to protect the princess. And now, it was what could help shape the future of the planet. As they walked through the palace, Kelara explained her vision. "Lithuria has always been cautious, bound by tradition and precision. But humans bring something new: adaptability, instinct, and the willingness to act when hesitation could be dangerous. Together, we can build a world where Lithurians and humans can learn from each other, creating something stronger than either could achieve alone." Eli nodded. "Then let's do it. I want to help, and I want to remain here not just as a guest, but as part of that future." Kelara's eyes lit up. "That is what I hoped you would say," she said softly. She led him to a balcony overlooking the palace grounds, where Lithurian warriors trained and civilians moved gracefully among the glowing flora. "Your choice to stay is not just personal," she said. "It is a symbol of trust, unity, and the potential of humans to inspire and protect. You will not be alone. Together we can guide this planet forward." The palace staff, once cautious of Eli, now approached him with respect and curiosity. They asked about Earth, human customs, and how humans approach problem-solving. Eli shared stories of Earth's history, survival in harsh conditions, and the ways humans rely on instinct and collaboration. The Lithurians listened intently, fascinated by how different yet effective human approaches could be. Over the following weeks, Eli became more than a visitor. He trained alongside Lithurian warriors, taught them techniques that relied on adaptability and quick thinking, and learned their ways in return. Kelara continued to guide him, and their partnership deepened. Together, they led patrols, planned strategies for potential threats, and explored the planet's vast landscapes, uncovering hidden paths, glowing forests, and rivers that seemed to pulse with life. One day, while exploring a valley surrounded by crystal mountains, Eli and Kelara came across a clearing filled with rare, glowing flora. The air shimmered with energy, and Eli felt a deep connection to the planet. "Lithuria, it's incredible," he said. "I've never seen anything like this on Earth." Kelara smiled, placing a hand over his. "And now you are part of it. Your presence matters here, Eli. You bring courage, adaptability, and a perspective that even the oldest Lithurians respect. That is why I asked you to remain with me." Eli felt a deep sense of belonging. He realized that humans, though young and imperfect, could inspire change, trust, and cooperation among civilizations far older and more advanced. He understood now that his choice to stay was not just personal. It was a bridge between worlds, a testament to the human spirit's power to connect, protect, and inspire. That evening, a celebration was held in the palace. Lithurians from across the planet gathered, their expressions a mixture of admiration and respect. Kilara addressed the crowd, speaking of the bravery, adaptability, and courage that humans could bring to the galaxy. Eli stood beside her, humbled but proud, aware that his presence represented something greater than himself. As the celebration continued, Kilara led Eli to a quiet terrace. The twin moons rose over the horizon, casting silver light across the glowing gardens. She took his hand gently, her eyes reflecting both trust and hope. "Eli," she said softly, "you have chosen to remain with me. That choice means more than you realize. It symbolizes unity, courage, and the potential of humans to inspire and guide. Lithuria welcomes you not just as a visitor, but as a partner, a friend, and an equal." Eli felt a surge of emotion. He had traveled across the stars, faced unknown dangers, and learned to navigate a world unlike any other. Yet this moment, standing beside Kilara, filled him with a sense of purpose and belonging he had never known. "I will remain," he said firmly. "Not just for you, but for Lithuria, for its people, and for the future we can build together." Kilara smiled, her eyes shimmering with pride. "Then let us begin, Eli. Together, humans and Lithurians can face whatever the galaxy holds, and together we will show that courage, heart, and the human spirit are forces that even the stars cannot ignore." As the night deepened, Eli looked out over Lithuria. The planet was alive, vibrant, and full of possibilities. He felt the pulse of its energy, the strength of its people, and the connection that had formed between worlds. Humans had long been underestimated, yet here he was, proving that courage, adaptability, and heart could change the fate of a civilization. With Kilara by his side, Eli knew that the future of Lithuria, and the bond between humans and Lithurians, was brighter than any star in the sky. He had come as a visitor, faced challenges that tested his courage, and now stood as a symbol of unity, trust, and the power of the human spirit. And as the twin moons shone over the glowing rivers and shimmering forests, Eli felt something profound, a sense of purpose, a sense of home, and a belief that humans, though young and unpredictable, could truly make a difference in the galaxy. The dawn of a new era had begun, one in which humans and Lithurians would walk side by side, learning from each other, protecting one another, and facing the unknown with courage, heart, and the unbreakable bond they had forged together. Eli turned to Kilara, taking her hand once more. "For Lithuria," he said, smiling. "For Lithuria," she echoed, her voice soft and steady, full of hope. And together, they stepped forward into the light of a new dawn, ready to face the future as partners, allies, and friends. A human and a Lithurian, united by trust, courage, and the promise of what could be achieved when hearts and minds worked together.